All right, so today we're going to be talking about, yes, ma'am. All right, today we're going to be talking about axis of symmetry and vertex for quadratic equations, okay? And a quadratic equation is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are just numbers. Maybe most of the time they're going to be integers. Remember we did some stuff with factoring with quadratics, and we did a times c and then add to b and that sort of thing. This is related to that, but we're going to be looking at graph. This is part of a graph is what we're looking for. And quadratics, when you graph them, they make this shape. It looks something like that. Or it can flip upside down like that as well. It's called a parabola. 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 Okay, and it's going to look like this eventually. When we draw the full graph, it'll look like one of those pictures. But today we're going to work on the axis of symmetry and the vertex. And the axis of symmetry, anything that's symmetric in math, it means you can take it and, this piece of paper is symmetric if you fold it perfectly in half and line up the sides. Right? So that line that it creates, that crease in the middle, is the symmetry line. So an axis of symmetry for these parabolas is this line that goes down through the middle. It's kind of like an imaginary line that if you picked up the paper and folded it across this line, the graph should match up on both sides. Just like this piece of paper, the edges match up when you fold it perfectly in half. That's an axis of symmetry. And it goes right down the middle of those graphs. So that red dotted line, those things are what we're calling the axis of symmetry. It's that imaginary line through the middle of the graph that you could fold it on and it'd match up. Okay, so axis of symmetry is what that is. The vertex is a very important point when you're talking about a quadratic. It's the lowest point or the highest point. So lowest point right here is down in the bottom part of that graph, up here at the highest point. That's a very important part of that graph. That's the vertex. Okay. Okay, so that's what we're going to be finding today is the equation for that dotted line and then the ordered pair for that point, that vertex. So the equation of the dotted line, that's the axis of symmetry. The actual point that line goes through at the bottom or the top of the graph, that's going to be the vertex. Vertex is this point down here at the bottom.
It's the highest or the lowest point of the parabola.
That's it. It's the highest or the lowest point of the parabola. And that's going to be part of what's related to a vertex. Is it the highest or the lowest point? And we'll be able to tell that based on the equation that we're given. Okay. Now, these are very easy things to find. If you can find the axis of symmetry, you've already found half of the vertex. That's the key to this. And it's a quick little formula that you use to find the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry formula. And this is something you'll need to commit to memory. And you'll use it enough over the next few days that it won't be that hard to memorize. It's pretty short anyway. Is x equals negative b divided by 2a. And that a and the b in this problem comes from a and the b in this problem. Okay, so negative b just means change the sign of whatever's there, divide it by 2 times that. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do several examples here where we find that axis of symmetry and the vertex. Now, that finds the axis of symmetry. The vertex, we need an ordered pair. Okay, the vertex is this ordered pair. The x value of the vertex is the same thing as that. It's that number, negative b divided by 2a. So and we'll get a number for that when we get a problem. We're going to do an example in just a second. Okay. So the x value is the same as the axis of symmetry. So once you find the axis of symmetry, you're halfway done with the vertex. If we've got an x value for a problem, how can we find the y value that goes with it? Fill in. What do you mean by fill in the answer, Miss Sandy?
Whatever the axis of symmetry is, put it into the equation.
Yeah, for what? What's it say here? It says x equals that. So we're going to put that in the place of x in the problem. So the notation that we use for that in algebra is function notation, where that just means plug this in. Plug in for x and work it out. We're going to get a y value out of that. So we're going to do an example or several about this. But just simple arithmetic is basically what we're doing today. We're just getting our numbers from a quadratic. All right, so let's look at our first example. Let's do something like y equals x squared plus 6x minus 7. So pretty simple like that. Okay, we want to find the axis of symmetry. All right, axis of symmetry. Let's find that first, and then we'll get the vertex, okay? So one of the things that I think helps when you're doing this is to make yourself a list. What's A, B, and C? A, B, and C. We're not using C right now, but we're going to use it later this week, okay? We're not using it to find the axis of symmetry. We'll use it for something else later. What's A in this problem? 1. It's always what's in front of x squared. A is always in front of x squared. So 1 is in front of x squared. So A is 1. B is always in front of x. So it's positive 6, right? That's what's in front of x. And then C would have to be the other number, negative 7. Okay. To find that axis of symmetry, again, we're going to use that formula. X equals negative B divided by 2 times A. So I'm going to plug in the stuff that goes here. So that's negative B. So negative 6 divided by 2 times 1. And we're going to simplify that as much as we can. This one actually works out real nice. It's negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3. So the axis of symmetry is x equals negative 3. That equation is the axis of symmetry. If you wrote just negative 3 and didn't write x equals, that's not the axis of symmetry. That's just a negative 3. It has to be the equation because remember, this axis of symmetry is a line, so it's got to have an equation. If it was just a number, then it's just one little spot. We got a line that's creating. So from there, we can take that and find the vertex. Remember that the x value of the vertex is the same as the axis of symmetry. So we've already got half our vertex. Negative 3 is the x value for the vertex. It's the same as our axis of symmetry. That will always forever be the case when you're dealing with quadratics. And you're asked to find the vertex or the axis of symmetry or to graph it. Those will always be the same. Now, how do we find the y value? That's right. Plug in negative 3 for x in the equation. And then we're just going to work that out. And you can use a calculator to help you work that out. You don't have to have one to do it. What's negative 3 squared? Positive 9 or negative 9? Positive 9. 6 times negative 3, negative 18, minus 7. So negative 9 minus 18 be negative, or 9 minus 18 is negative 9. Minus 7 would be negative 16. So there's the vertex of this parabola or this quadratic. It has an axis of symmetry at x equals 3 and a vertex at -3, -16. Okay. Now, I said we were going to do something else with the highest point or lowest point on that. So if it's the lowest point, we call that a minimum, because when it's opening like this, the minimum's at the bottom, right? Right there where my thumbs come together. Minimum would be at the bottom. The way that you tell that is just by what's A. If A is positive, A is greater than 0, that means it's positive. Then the vertex is a minimum. If A is less than 0, negative, then the vertex is, if you're at the top, if you're not a minimum, the opposite of a minimum would be a maximum. So getting a little terminology here. All right, so when we look at this problem, we have found the axis of symmetry, we have found the vertex. What do we know about that vertex? Is it a maximum or a minimum? We look at A. What's A? +1, right? So that means it has to be a minimum. So we just say that's a minimum. These are the things I'm wanting you to pick up today. And then tomorrow we'll add to it. And then the next day we'll add to that. And then by Friday we've got the whole picture. Hopefully. Okay. Let's look at another one. And do the same sort of stuff. Example B. Let's say we had y equals 2x squared. Let's make that -2x squared plus 8x minus 13. All right. We're going to make a list of A, B, and C. Let's do that first. A, B, and C. What's A? -2. What's B? 8. C is -13. All right. Again, we're going to do axis of symmetry. Yeah, you're welcome to abbreviate that. AXS or something like that. That's fine. Yeah, anyway, you can abbreviate that. As long as you've got axis on there, that's the only axis that we'll have here. So that's fine with me. Okay. All right. What's our formula for axis of symmetry? -b divided by 2 times A. So -b, b is 8, so -b would be -8 divided by 2 times -2. So that's -8 over -4, which is +2. X equals +2. For our vertex, that means that what's +2 on our vertex? The X value in the ordered pairs. How do we find the Y value? Plug it in. So times +2 squared plus 8 times +2, and then it's -13. And they just work this out. 2 squared is 4. 4 times -2 is -8 plus 16 minus 13. That'd be 8 minus 13 be -5. So there's our vertex. Is that a maximum or a minimum? And why? A is less than 0. A is a negative number. So that means this has to be a maximum, because what that does is it turns the parabola upside down, where the it goes up and then down.
The maximum is when the parabola faces down.
Yeah, when it faces down like that. Minimum is when it faces up like that. But that A is what decides that. What's in front of x squared decides that. So this is a maximum. And you can even abbreviate that MAX and the minimum MIN. That's fine with me. Okay. All right. Let's do another one. Let's throw a fraction in there. One half x squared minus 10x plus 4. We're going to throw a fraction in there and see what happens. All right. So, axis of symmetry. What do we need to do first? Yeah, what's A, B, and C? What's A? Half. B, -10, and C, +4. Okay, so we got A, B, and C. We've identified those. Axis of symmetry. -B divided by 2A. So it turns it to +10. Opposite of B divided by, it's -B, meaning opposite of B divided by 2 times A. Okay, and then 2 times A is 1/2, so that's 2 times 1/2. That works out pretty nice, because what's half of 2? 1. So we end up with 10 divided by 1, which is 10. X equals 10 is our axis of symmetry, which means our vertex has what as the x value? 10. We just need to find the y value that goes with that.
It's really hard.
Oh, this is not hard. This is easy. All right. So how do we get the y value that goes with that? Plug it back in. That's all we have to do. It's the same thing every time. 1/2 10 squared minus 10 times 10 plus 4. Half of 100 minus 100 plus 4. That's 50 minus 100 is -50 plus 4 would be -46. There's our vertex. Is that a max or a min? Why? A is positive 1/2. So that's going to make it a minimum. When we start putting this together with the picture, what you start seeing is when A is positive, it makes this shape. If A is negative, it doesn't matter what number it is, it makes that shape. It just flips it. A decides all that stuff. The sign of A decides it, nothing else. Now, the numbers that are on A, B, and C decide how wide, how narrow, how tall, how short something, the graph is. But the sign tells you which way it opens, up or down, and whether it's max or min. So if it's A is positive, it's a minimum. A is negative, it's a maximum. Think about the letter in the middle. Positive has an I, POSI. Minimum has a min, has an I in the middle. Negative has an A in it, NEGA. Max has A in the middle of it. So that maybe that helps you remember. I'm just trying to give you something to help you try to remember some of these things that are going to kind of pile up as we add things this week. Okay. All right. So not bad with the fraction in it. That was okay. Let's do another one with the fraction in it because those are the ones that give us a little trouble. Say we had y equals negative 1/4 x squared plus 9. So we're going to go through the same steps for this one as we've done the other three. What's A, B, and C? What's A? Negative 1/4. What's B? No. What's 9? 9 is a plain number. It doesn't have an X on it, right? So it has to be C. B is not even there. If something's not there in math, it's 0. So B is 0 in this case, which is nice. It makes calculations a lot easier. It's one less multiplication we got to do because we know when we go to find the axis of symmetry, 0, negative 0, there's no such thing. It's 0 is either, it's just in the middle. It's not positive or negative. So it's just 0 divided by 2 times negative 1/4. Well, 0 divided by anything is 0, always. So the axis of symmetry is at x equals 0. That makes the vertex pretty easy on this one because the x value of the vertex is 0. What's the y value of the vertex? Plug it in. 1/4 times 0 squared plus 9. Always going to go the same process here. Get your axis of symmetry, negative b divided by 2a. Plug it in to get the y value of the vertex. So 0 squared is 0. 0 times negative 1/4 is still 0. 0 plus 9 is 9. So the vertex is at 0, 9. Is that a maximum or minimum? A is what kind of number? Negative, so it's a maximum. These are the three things that I want to know from you today. Okay? Nothing else. This is the only three things that I need from you today is these three things for each of the problems that I've got for you today. Tomorrow we'll take problems and we'll build on this and say, okay, now if this is our vertex, what do we do next? To start building that graph to get that parabola shape on a graph paper. Okay. All right. That got a handout 1 through 30. Find the axis of symmetry, vertex, max, and I had one that for whatever reason, I guess I wasn't paying attention when I typed these up, and I put the negative in the wrong spot, and my fraction got in front of that. So on number 2 on this, you want to rewrite that problem to be that one right there. So on these 30, it's 30 problems, but it's just this on the 30 problems. It doesn't take that long. Some of them are the short ones like that last one. This is the stepping stone that we need to get to the next step. At vertex, like I said, it's a very important point for this. Everything builds off of it. So on number 2, just go ahead and I'll right beside number 2, rewrite it as negative 3/2 x squared plus 8 instead of what's there because I I don't know what happened there.